Hey, what's up? Today I want to show you what is my favorite rectus abdominis abdominal exercise. Just so you know that the abdominals are set up where you've got multiple different muscles in your core. You got your transversus abdominis, which is the muscle that stabilizes your pelvis when you draw in, right? When you suck in, when you do tummy vacuums. That's what you're training. There's actually a muscle that supports that. And then you got your external obliques and internal obliques, which act very similarly to the transversus abdominis. But these muscles on the top, the chunky ones, obviously I've got some body fat here so you can't see it that well, but the big chunky muscles on top, which really act like armoring. They have two purposes. They act like armoring against blows to your stomach. So a boxer or any athlete who can possibly get knocked into their stomach, they need protection. So those muscles tend to hypertrophy. They get big and swollen, and that's why you end up having like a six-pack chunky look. Also, one of the reasons why it tends to seem as if I have a big belly a lot of times. It's simply because I have really big rectus abdominis muscles. These muscles tend to get really chunky on me, so they push out. The other thing is that they're also designed to help prevent hyperextension, right? And that could be at the pelvis or at the ribs. Hyperextension meaning falling backwards too far. If your hips have a tendency to rock back too far, you can get them to come back under by training your rectus abdominis, because it goes from your hips to your rib cage. And also, if you have a tendency to, well, most people don't, but it prevents your rib cage from popping up too high, right? Someone with a really big belly, you know, who's all this stuff is just spilling out, well, it's almost like they're hinged back. Well, by training the rectus abdominis, the muscle we're going to talk about today, you bring it back down here. If you're an athlete who, you know, like a football player or a basketball player who goes up, you know, if you're going up for a catch in football and somebody comes from behind and they hit you, if your rectus abdominis doesn't become engaged, you'll crack, right? Some of you guys talk about snapping your back up. The only way you snap your back is if your rectus abdominis is non-existent. So those are the two main reasons why you have it: protection and to prevent hyperextension. So anyway, like I said, because it hypertrophies, the external obliques and the rectus abdominis have a tendency to hypertrophy. They're much more explosive muscles than the stabilizing effect of your transversus abdominis and internal obliques. So that means that they have a tendency to get big, chunky, and strong, just like your bicep, like your chest, like your quads. Training them the way I'm going to show you today with an exercise done with the intensity and the rep range that I'll share with you allows those muscles to get bigger, stronger, and hypertrophied. Now, I understand not everybody wants that. A lot of you guys want to look pretty with thin waists, like women. But anyway, the fact here is that you want to have big, thick muscles. I don't see why the abdominals shouldn't also be included in that. You know, if you want a thin waist, then go and do like, I don't know, like Jane Fonda workouts or Taebo or something. You want to lift weights? We lift weights we use to train all of our muscles. So, the cool thing about this exercise and this setup is that we can use a lot of heavy weight to train the rectus abdominis. This here is really important. This is a BOSU balance trainer. They should probably pay me for putting this in the video, but I just happen to be letting you know this is what I use. You could also use a sandbag if you don't have one of these, or you could possibly use a Swiss ball. But the reason why I have this set up in between here is because you want a full range of motion when you're training your rectus abdominis. You want to be able to extend fully, and you want to be able to flex fully. Most people, when they train the rectus abdominis, they're laying on the floor, so it's a very short range of motion. This here allows for full extension and flexion. So I set it up such that I'm sitting right at the edge here, and then I lock my feet under some dumbbells. That way I'm anchored in. I like to use this rope. I set it up. Right now I have it pretty light because I want to be able to show you, but I'll make it a little bit heavier and I'll give you some examples of how you can make it more explosive. From here, boom, all the way up. Full extension, boom, full flexion. So if you're working for hypertrophy, if you're working to build the thickness of your rectus abdominis, mind you, remember, if you're a bodybuilder and you want, or you know, a physique athlete and you want a thin waist, I probably wouldn't do it this way. But training in the hypertrophy rep range of 8 to 12 with a moderate weight will give you thicker waist. If you make it a little bit heavier, and of course, body fat has a whole lot to do with it. As your body fat percentage comes down, everything looks leaner. Your abdominals are no different. Make it a little bit heavier and make it a little bit more explosive. You're training it more for strength. And if you're an athlete, like I mentioned before, a boxer or a football player who needs it for protection and to prevent hyperextension, you can add some more weight and go, 4 to 6 reps. So I think I doubled the weight there. And that's a heck of a lot heavier. So that's it. Again, these are just basic principles of bodybuilding and strength training. If you're training for hypertrophy, no matter what the muscle set, if it's your biceps, if it's your calves, or if it's your abs, bodybuilding rep ranges and parameters are generally going to be moderate intensity, higher volume, higher frequency, meaning 3 or 4 sets, 8 to 12 repetitions. If you're training for power and strength, it's going to be a bit more like 3 to 5, maybe even 6 sets, but you keep the reps a lot lower. 3 to 5 reps, longer rest intervals, and perhaps less frequency. That's it. Hope that helps. Done.